Item 6A is a technology update, which will be postponed to a later date. And item B is then early childhood education. And Aaron's going to share some information about early childhood visits that have occurred, along with options for the district, additional information, and then we'll have some discussion.
This is the PowerPoint that's on the website now, but it'll change to this one. What I mean is this is the refined version. We've been a few places on field trips as a Board of Education, and we've done some further discussion and embarked on further study. So I thought I'd not share the entire PowerPoint, but at least go to the spots where we might stimulate some discussion. So. Moving through, I think it's important for us to make sure that we understand as part of our long-range goals that early learning opportunities has been a centerpiece for us, discussion point for some time. Our patron insight surveys that we've talked about, that we finished last spring when Ken DeSeagart was here. You recall the emboldened items are the ones that people freely and openly thought were hot button issues for the district, and anything above a 4.0 was significantly good. Only way to get a 5 in these areas was for everyone to vote 5 being the best you can get. So moving to the second part of that, the part in the upper left corner where the yellow asterisk is, it wasn't a bold-face item for the community, but we got a good rating on it. So what that told me personally was that those people that are receiving services, and albeit limited, are happy with what they're receiving, but it didn't come up as a hot button issue, at least at this time, because significantly there's a significant number of people that really don't know what we were doing in terms of early childhood education. And so from that, we're about the business of informing the community. Here recently kicked that off. What is it that, and what are the benefits of early childhood education, and how long have we been talking about it? It's been a recent issue to talk about on both sides of the political aisle. Some value it more than others, but and I'd hate for us to get involved with that simply because it's been an issue for us since the late 90s. It's also a part of Top 10 by 20. Now, the possible link to distinction and performance criteria, I think, is going to be removed if it hasn't been removed already. It hasn't formally been removed. But what that meant at the time was the only way to achieve accreditation with distinction and performance is if you had early childhood programming that was above and beyond early childhood special education, PAT, the things that we currently have. And so what some of the pushback was, well, that's just another unfunded mandate because there is no line item budget through the formula that would reimburse us ADA, average daily attendance, for students like they are doing for kindergarten. But again, this is old hat for us. We've been talking about it for a long time. There are several bullet points that I could put on I could do a whole presentation on the merits of early childhood education, but simply a couple. I won't read those to you. The return on investment and the identification of achievement gaps in students. Those of you that have worked in schools know that. If you talk to any principal that's at an elementary school at kindergarten screening, you can identify students that are going to struggle, and you can identify those who've had access and taken advantage of early childhood programming. I think the analogy of a pole position in a NASCAR race, I'm not a big NASCAR fan, but I know people work awfully hard to get the pole position, and the advantage of being at the pole is that you have a better chance to win. So the work that we would put in early on certainly might follow that same analogy. We do really good on the second bar on this graph here. We've got 2 wonderful alternative program opportunities for students that have fallen through the cracks. So I feel really good as a superintendent of schools saying what we do for students that are at risk. But the top bar, I personally think we can do better. We have a number of students that are not being served. They're on the website if you were to follow these websites, particularly the High Scope Perry Preschool Study, which is the longest longitudinal study of the effects of early learning on a number of things. And it's the one that Missouri Department of Corrections Executive Director George Lombardi cites as being very, very effective in learning what merits early learning opportunities for children, what they can do for long-term success. Of course, DESE has their Now for Later campaign that's on the website. So what have we been doing? Our planning for early learning, as I've showed this before, it's one of my favorite memorandums that Vicki had in her magic cabinet from the history of our school district, 1996, when Dr. King was talking about what early learning expansion of kindergarten would do from half day to full day, and an area encircled, talking about the what it does for remediation, what it does to get children ready for reading, etc. So what this 1996 memorandum was 2013. I think it would, you take out the words kindergarten, you put in pre-K programming, I think it would certainly still be appropriate. Again, our long-range facility plan, which we're almost through. It's a 10-year plan. We still have the bold-faced items there that we have yet to accomplish, particularly the ad hoc committee that said we ought to consider something for early childhood programming. So it's the one major issue that's lingering for us to consider. Our enrollment's very steady. Matter of fact, we're happy about that. We were at a presentation today with the chancellor at the Lions Club talking about increased student population being at an all-time high, increased faculty, and faculty bring families, and families bring children, obviously, and that's impacted us a little and will continue to impact us, particularly when their strategic plan is fully realized and there's 100 new staff members and we get a lot of graduate students that have children. But you can see here our elementary schools are pretty full. Our enrollment is very steady. It will go up a little, and actually we started a little higher than this, particularly at Mark Twain. So we're very thankful for that. Our class sizes are solid, but you can see with 17 sections of kindergarten, there's not a lot more room at the end, and those numbers are pretty stable. You probably would be interested in knowing that in the Ozark Conference we have some of the smallest class sizes of all the schools in the Ozark Conference, particularly at kindergarten. There are some as high as 30, particularly at Springfield. I wouldn't have anticipated that, but in our meetings with the Ozark Conference superintendents, that's an interesting discussion point. Our current EC programming, early childhood programming, you can see what we do with PAT. We certainly could serve more. 129 of those families high need. We've had that report given to us. Our Bulldog preschool has 24 students in it now, a waiting list that we quit counting every year. People that offer to pay double, but we just don't have the space. Early childhood special education, which you just approved another position as a paraprofessional, because that ranged of 40 to 60. We were close to 60 by the end of last year, serving them. That's a program that's going to continue to be a need for us. And of course, at the end of every summer school program, you get the report on how many parents have their students take advantage of our pre-K program in summer school. It's a significant program for us, and it continues to be strong. Our current EC programming, early childhood programming in the community, I would tell you on this slide that we have a meeting set on December 17th at noon with, this isn't the entire list. We'll probably invite more. We'll have a lunch meeting, and I'll share this presentation with them. The numbers that are there are from them, and I want to make sure they continue to be accurate. Everyone I've talked to has been more than willing to serve, which I appreciate. I tell them we're just in the beginning stages of this. This presentation by no means reflects any input from a large part of the community. That's what we're beginning to do. So all of them have waiting lists, all of them are at capacity, all of them do good work, and all of them say that we can do more. So of our 360 kindergartners, only 50% of them have experienced preschool programming. Some of that might be by choice. But we also have about a 50% free and reduced lunch population district-wide. We also, that 50% of our students, 180 of that 360, so to speak, are ones that in some cases would be able to take advantage of programming if some of those waiting lists didn't exist and there were other opportunities for them. So what have we been doing? You know, one of the questions you asked me on the heels of the first time I presented this, you know, what was the last slide, what was the percentage of students that hadn't had it, and what are the current efforts? We've been on 3 field trips. We went to Jefferson City, and we've had time at the last board meeting to kind of reflect on that October visit there. That program was a repurposed elementary school serving entire free lunch population, early childhood special education, and Title I. And for the sake of this discussion, we'll get to title in a minute. Title is not based on socioeconomic status. It's based upon academic performance, so it doesn't matter. They're identified through that process, and we have title programming in this district now that runs kindergarten through 4th grade. But their entire program for their program is either free and reduced lunch, title, early childhood special education, and pretty extensive program. It was a finalist for the preschool program of the year. All of us that went to the MSBA conference saw the presenter there. It was even better to see it firsthand. Going to Nixa and Branson, the reason why they're underlined an asterisk is because they kind of are like us. You know, Nixa has much higher tax base, but the population's pretty close. And their program is a standalone facility, and they're building another 29,000 square foot building to house an additional preschool program that's right next to an existing repurposed elementary school in a comprehensive approach. Branson, which we visited on the same day, is one that had considered and enacted on reconfiguration of their grades. In other words, they accomplished preschool programming by dedicating 1 elementary building to pre-KK and having 2 buildings that are 1st through 3rd grade, and moving to a 4, 5, 6 upper elementary, 7, 8 junior high school, and then moving their freshmen to the high school. They built a freshman wing onto the high school, and we were able to see that. So both of those programs are very effective and met the needs in accomplishing early childhood programming. So those are the options that we've discussed, and the reason why we went to those 2 places because they're similarly sized. Socioeconomic status is somewhat similar. And I know the superintendent's there. I knew we'd get a good tour. So, and we did, and they're good folks. So we have discussed. I think early on, you know, Mr. Hohenfeld's here. He came down after one of these first meetings. He said, "So which one of these options are you guys discussing?" And we said, "We really don't know. We haven't landed on any 2 yet, or we haven't landed on any 1 yet. We still haven't, but we've narrowed several options down to 2 for the sake of discussion and presenting in the community and talking with people. And I certainly would want anyone to not leave here thinking that we have made a decision, but certainly want to hear from folks. So the survey that I've used thus far, tested with 1 service club and 1 other group. We've made adjustments to it based on feedback from them, and it hasn't gone online yet, but it's a 2-question survey. It's about 4 pages long because it warrants some discussion about what do these options really mean. So the pre-KK configuration is one option. It's just like Nixa, a standalone facility dedicated to that programming. And it doesn't mean that the building's going to look like this, but what this is 27 spaces that would house up to 17 sections of kindergarten and 10 classrooms for pre-K programming and early childhood special education and PAT, etc. So a comprehensive early childhood center is what this would be. Of course, it's a school building, and again, it can look and be added to, but that's the square footage at 50,000 square feet. The program and the budget, again, we put 170 to 184-year-olds for starters, and the expansion through careful planning means we certainly wouldn't do anything expand down into other grade level or to 3-year-olds or any other direction without some careful consideration. There's budget ramifications, and there's it's not just a decision made here. We're considering half-day programming with full-day Title I programming, since those dollars that come from the title, as I just mentioned what a title student is, they're program dollars that would allow that to happen, and those students have higher needs, and we would offer that kind of programming. We would pursue wraparound care before and after school. An example, and I don't know exactly what it would be or what it would even be called, but I know that in Branson it was called Pirates Cove, so it would be called Bulldog something here. I don't know what Bulldog what, but it'll have Bulldog in it. And if I have
In the Bulldog kennel.
believe me, there's not anything that you would kick around that we haven't already talked about. We come to a spot where we just, we better stop and let somebody else help us. For example, the one at Branson starts at 6:45 and goes till 5:30. So the child, and in this case with the faith-based groups that we have, they could come to us a half day and go to the other for the remainder of the day. So there's a way to work through all that. The sliding scale fee-based program, based upon free and reduced lunch calculation, and we do that now. They qualify for free or reduced lunch based upon income status, and it's pretty well set. Have we decided what those fees would be? No, I certainly wouldn't want to make one, recommend one that would be so low that would put us in competition with the other folks. So that's the reason why they need to see this and we need to talk through it. All existing preschool programs, as I said before, the ECSC, the PAT, all this, not Bulldog preschool, of course we could provide a more clinical experience for them. I would move to that facility. We've quantified land acquisition of 15 acres for this 50,000 square foot building to be somewhere around 700,000. It's not a guess, it's just something that we know is real right now. Additional staffing, approximately 1.3 million is the top end, because what we have calculated is 11 teachers and 11 aides and all the other support personnel that we would need, i.e. custodians, cooks, things that a building has in it. Will it be 11 teachers? May not be, but you know, we're moving this to.
So at 11 teachers, the student-teacher ratio is 15-ish?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
15. That's what
That's,
we
I
calculated.
think the standard with an 8 is 15.
Yep. The new facility, 50,000 square foot facility, projected cost to be 11.2 million.
And does that not include the land, though, right?
Does not include the land. Okay.
So it's 12 million with the land, give or take.
So that's one.
Okay.
Now, have we decided this is the one we're going to do? Anybody in the crowd?
No.
We haven't decided which one. RD, we have not decided we're going to do this. Okay? That's why I want to talk to you after the meeting. I don't want you writing something that it's not true. All right, so district reconfiguration. The other option, again, when we went to see Branson, we wanted to learn from them about what's that mean, and how might we learn from them in that capacity. So we would reconfigure our district. We'd have one pre-KK building. That means we would remodel an existing building. Let's just say it's Mark Twain. Does that mean it's going to be Mark Twain?
No.
Just for the sake of discussion. The other two buildings would become first through third grade, so Truman and Wyman. Does that mean those two are going to be first through third grade buildings? No. It just means for the sake of discussion, that's what it is. I still want to talk with all of our internal staff, and we've got 2 staff members at the top of the audience here who've taken copious notes. I wouldn't want them going back to their staff and saying this is what we're going to do, but they've seen some of this at the back-to-school presentation in August. So then the middle school will become an upper elementary. That's what Branson did, a 4th, 5th, and 6th grade building. The junior high becomes 7th and 8th grade. And high school, 9th graders move to the high school. So if you look at the site plan for the high school, how could that work possibly? At the bottom of the page is Cedar Street. The gray rectangle on the left is where Blossom Basket and Dr. Moorcamp's office is. The area, you see the Circle Drive as it exists now is kind of compressed, comes up more towards Cedar Street to the west, and the old annex is gone, and that's replaced with a 51,000 square foot 2-story addition, a 2-story for classroom addition. So a closer look at that shows that we've got the classroom space built in. This angled wall there, you're walking in, the lobby is now where the outside of the exterior, you see the practice gym, replacing the wrestling room. And there is an auditorium in this. Auditorium's been on a long-range facility plan as well. You move 300 plus high school students to this building, and the only auditorium we have in the district's at the middle school seats 300 students. This one seats about 800. And I would pause here also to tell you that we have declared our interest in pursuing FEMA grant dollars for the purpose of a storm shelter addition. This would be that addition. Whether or not we're able to use it, I can't put it in this presentation because we don't have it. But we have declared our intent to apply, and it could also be applied to that 50,000 square foot elementary school. So that could be a storm facility. In 2015 and beyond, any building project any school district does has to have a safe room spec'd in to its facility, but it's on your dime as opposed to FEMA grant dime. So they're a little bit higher to construct that would withstand an F5 tornado. Our high school sits in the middle of the arts district. Our discussion with the city just about storm shelter in that area for residents, it would be really nice to be able to do that. And theoretically, you could sector off that part of the rest of the building from the people, and the building could be opened with our phones for people to access in case there's tornadoes. So we think we could do some good for the community here, but we also could do it at an elementary school if it becomes that standalone pre-KK facility. We've estimated that to be close to $3 million, but again, we don't have it, so it's only at this pause that I tell you that it's a possibility. But it takes the dollar amount to the good. So again, with this program, we're going to serve the same number of students, except they'll be theoretically, for this discussion, at Mark Twain. But it's not necessarily going to be Mark Twain. But we would expand that through careful planning. Mark Twain could be expanded. All the buildings can be built onto. They were, when we did the 2005 issue, we have plans for that if we need to. Half-day programming, same as before, Title I programming all day. Pursue before and after school care, as we talked about before, be Bulldog something. Sliding scale, which we will determine and develop along the way, but we don't have that in mind. But pay as you can, and based upon like free and reduced lunch calculation. All existing programs come to that to one facility, the repurposed elementary school in this case. Additional staffing is the same, might be less, but for the sake of discussion, we're just trying to put some numbers together. New ninth grade addition, the projected cost is $12.7 million. It's a little bit more, but you don't have the land acquisition. So if you took the 11.2 and added the 700,000, you're close. They're close in square footage, and they're close as far as budget impact.
And you're gaining an auditorium.
Yeah. So levy impact comparison, this is where I would want anybody to understand that this is just for the sake of discussion. It doesn't mean that's where it ends, but the things that are there on the screen, I feel it's my responsibility to push the envelope a little bit for discussion purposes, because we've been dancing around this as a community, or at least a school community, for a while. So we use the assumption of a 30-cent voter-approved issue, 15 cents for bond construction. That'll get us approximately $12 million, which both those projects are in that area. We would certainly have to supplement some of the project with capital projects funds, like we have done with the last two bond issues, and a 15-cent operating levy, because we're adding staff members, and that's an ongoing expense. And the 15 cents will not get us the 1.3 million. So the 15 cents will get us 600,000, and we will have to repurpose, as we always do, our existing budget to make this happen. So we're not and the 15 cents wouldn't have to be levied all at one time. We have talked with our financial consultants about the concept of a phase-in, since we're talking of April of 2015, and we wouldn't need to levy. So a person, this district has done a phase-in levy before, and it makes it, we get it as we need it, in other words. Our tax levy right now in a 25 school comparison sits down there at the bottom. The only one below us that's not related to the Lake of the Ozarks money is Neosho, and I still, for the life of me, don't know why they are. They just don't pay their staff very well, but that's what they choose as a community to do. If you looked at how we pay and how we rank performance-wise, this slide inverts, and we go to the top. Camdenton salary survey came out last week, and we have actually improved our status in a lot of areas because of your appreciation for what our teachers do and how important our staff is. But look what we've been able to do in a levy compare. So if you moved our levy 30 cents, it still goes to 17 from 23rd. It doesn't go to the top. We haven't touched our levy in 13 years. So if we add staff, we just can't. We've done 2 no tax debt service rate issues, and we've said that in the last one we did, we're going to get to a point where we can't generate that. And actually, that's gone from 4 million down to about 2 million as a no debt service increase. So we're out of that game for a little while. So if you owned a house, and the average cost of a house in this community has gone up a little from $106,000 in 2009 to $115,000. The impact of the 30 cents is $65 a year, but remember, 15 of that's levy, and if we're phasing that in, that becomes less. The bonds have a maturity of 20 years, so that's a mortgage where you're going to use to pay off that facility. The average commercial property is $320,000, so that 30-cent impact would be that annually. But again, the 15 cents could be levied at a phase-in. Now that's just that. It's not what we're going to do. I'm confident that there'll be. The more I'm out talking about this, the more apt people might be to say, "Well, you've already decided." I really want to know, and the board really wants to know, which of these 2 options does our community like? And there are variations on, I suppose, variations on the reconfiguration theme that we have discussed, but you start to get real complicated. And RD was a testimony that when he came down, we spent some time together and said, good Lord, you got a lot of options here. So really, we either repurpose what we have or we build another facility, and it's not extravagant. Boy, I sure would hope at some point in time we're able to do more. But this gets us in that area. There's 180 kids that are not getting preschool that could probably use it, and they're not being able to be served. And I think we can make some improvements there. So with that, the board would like to share what they saw at Nixa and at Branson, and have a discussion about, maybe even possibly about Nancy's got some of the preliminary data. And she's written down all the comments, and so thus far, and just, well, we got about 40, 50 responses. What have you heard so far?
We can't hear you unless you stand up. Take her the microphone.
I should have just answered it.
This could be a first.
Most of the ones that responded and had a clear preference, they preferred the second scenario where you move the ninth grade students to the high school and have a pre-K building. Also, that was the majority of the comments were very positive in that direction. And there was nothing that was a poor statement in any of it. And the majority of the grouping did strongly agree on scenario 2. And if they put down, they said they prefer scenario 2, but they would also support scenario 1 if it was determined to be the best for the students.
So what were the options, or can you share those, Aaron?
Well,
as far as
what I only did this once, so this is not super scientific yet, because we had a couple groups, but I was looking at, do you understand the survey? The survey at Kiwanis Club, I used them as the guinea pigs. They actually had the survey in front of them, and it mirrored the 2 options with the schematics or the concept drawings and what the program would be, backing up to this bulleted area, what the programming would be, what the budget impact would be, and then which do they like. And it's the strongly disagree to strongly agree. And I told him, if you like one better than the other, then make the one you like the best strongly agree, and make the other one a little bit less than that. So, and write any comments you want. There's a big comment section. So we added bullets about make sure you understand there's an auditorium, and we're trying what the whole thing is. So there's several bullet points in there that explain that. But, we'll get that online here before long. But
so there's a set of answers for each of the 2 set of questions for each of the two.
Basically,
scenarios.
one question
For
for,
each scenario.
Yeah.
rank this option, then rank the second option, and then leave comments.
Did we give RD a copy of the survey? We can get you that.
So for the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Continue on, my question is, what if they don't support early childhood education? Are we
Then
getting
what I
that
told
out of
What
them?
I told them to do, if you don't support any of it, then write that down in the comment section.
Okay.
You put strongly disagree with both and say, I don't support early childhood education, and I don't like anything you just said. And
Okay.
I'm okay with that. I don't expect everybody to understand it or like it, you know, that's not what, we're just trying to move this discussion from, let's talk about what we're gonna do to, here's what, if you really wanna do this. And you know, there's some favorable discussion about that. And I think by getting this to Ken Seagart for the follow-up survey prior to April of 2015, this is the option that people will support. Now, within that option, will you support it at 20 cents, 25 cents, or, you know, that's where that specific,
Right.
what's our percentage of success, instead of saying, having them still choose between two.
We need to refine it before we
So-
go there.
Well,
We
there's
need
no
to
way,
get-
there's no way you could do a telephone survey with this kind of
Correct.
information transfer before they can make a decision. We've got to decide which one of these options work. I had a question about the repurposing of one of the elementary schools. The cost of that is included or
That's
minimal,
part of it,
or
too.
something we can
haven't-
handle out
we
of
haven't
current?
completely quantified that, because frankly, if we decided that, even though it may not be, Mark Twain was the school, and what we would need to do is build additional restroom space, we could still have a preschool there
Yeah.
and do a lot of that work
Okay.
as we go along. Not every classroom has to have a restroom. Maybe there's already restrooms in there, and we got kindergartners in that building now, and they don't have
Right.
restrooms in their classroom. So, but we can add restroom facilities to an existing elementary school. What we saw were the miniature toilets, and I jokingly said, well, when they go home, they don't have those. You know, so we can have preschool. We just can, so.
I just wondered whether you guys estimated it was going to be
We have
$1 million.
We've
Or
asked
something
Jeff
less
City
than
to
that.
send us some numbers. We haven't received those yet on Southwest Elementary, what they spent there. You know, obviously, each building is a little
Sure,
different anytime
sure.
you're remodeling, but
I mean, if it's going to be $1 million, it changes the financial ratio of the two projects too. And I think right now that one's the higher priced one, and for whatever you say, you get less. We get a whole 800-seat auditorium out of the 9th grade option.
But you would have to do the renovations.
Yeah, but and that's what I'm trying to get my arms wrapped around. Is does that really level the two?
it
Out to the
probably
point.
levels it out. You know, whether that's coming out of capital projects in a phase-in process.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, Keith, in our current elementary, those 17 kindergarten classrooms, you need to lower smart boards and chalkboards.
Right.
And really, you could have kindergarten. So then when you're looking at the other 10 classrooms, maybe if you're going to add a restroom for these two classrooms, you put it in between.
Yeah, we saw that at
Right,
Jeff
so,
City, yeah.
so how much does that cost?
Right.
I'd hate to throw out a number right now, but we've asked for that from Jeff, and we'll also have our architects look at that as we go through this over the next month. We've talked to Mark and at Honer, and they're working on some of those numbers and kind of looking at that, but
And our communication plan is inside out, meaning that I've asked all the principals as of last Tuesday to start scheduling me to their faculty meetings, so even Christopher. and-
What's the cost of transporting our 9th graders back and forth? I mean,
Well,
that's something
another-
I've wondered
that
about
was
too.
one of the questions I got at Kiwanis: are you going to transport these preschoolers? And we said, we're not adding to our transportation budget. Matter of fact, we would save some by not transporting our freshmen. We would need to try to quantify
That would be a
too.
long-term saving.
it's,
But we
Yeah,
would
but
have to transport more elementary school students, because you'd have first, second, and third graders from one of those districts that would have to go to the other two schools. And all the kindergartners would have to go to the school, so.
I mean, I kind of started, at least my thought process with a brand-new pre-K facility. I'm kind of sliding the other way, and I guess we've gotten to the point where the two options from a financial point of view are within the same ballpark, and I think maybe we ought to shift our conversation a little bit to what do we think is best for kids?
Well,
And we've had some discussions about, ninth graders all in one building with the high schoolers and building transitions, and I think you guys have gotten us to the point where, at least in my mind, there's no financial difference between the two projects from a real significant point of view. So what does it look like in terms of impact to kids?
in addition, that was the other metric.
Yeah.
There are other variations on
Oh, we
the
could do this
on the
all day.
reconfiguration theme that are less sound
Yeah.
educationally. That we can do grade centers
Yeah,
and
we could do
transition
that- we could do
kids
this
tons of
forever,
times. and
yeah.
It makes a lot of sense and maybe even a little cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not good for the kids.
Well, one concern, and I heard over the years from different parents, is the time lost for the freshmen that are going to the high school for certain classes. They really struggle getting there on time, and it just eats into their actual study time, and we'd be eliminating that, which would be really nice.
Both these scenarios too set this district up for a long, long time, because you've got a little space at 2 first through third buildings. You'll have some, we'll have a full pre-KK center.
And we're kind of getting to the point where the elementaries are busted at the seams in a
Well, I
couple
just showed you,
cases.
they're full.
Yeah.
They're
You know,
full.
to go back to talking about our visits, which is, for me, it gave a clear picture that early childhood education can be what you need and want it to be, that there's not a set structure, a set method. I thought Branson and Nixa, although they were serving similar populations, the way they were doing it, I thought was very different. And frankly, I thought Branson's model was a little more, it seemed like it was more well thought out maybe than Nix's, even though Nixa had gotten an award for it. It just seemed like they had gone in and said, here's what we really need for this group of kids, and this is what we need, and this is what we can do, and I like their attitude about preschool or early morning as well as late, and how they kept kids. It was just I thought well thought out how they put it together.
Branson had that big open room in the middle, right?
Yeah,
With the classrooms
yeah,
on the
yeah,
outside.
yeah,
I love
I like that.
configuration. And, yeah, I was really impressed with Branson. I was thinking all along, I thought, it'd be so neat to have a whole center just for the kids. And a new one,
That was where I started,
But
yeah.
after visiting Jeff City and seeing how you can retrofit those buildings and it can be done either way.
Well, and they were moving kids up and down stairs, which I thought for a 4-year-old, that's got to be quite the challenge. But it seemed, the kids just rise to the challenge. I mean, when I went in
even
there
the
and saw
ones-
2 stories, and then the cafeteria was in the basement, and
Well, remember
Kelly's
some-
handprints were still in the concrete there.
Remember, 2 or 3 years ago, when we first started visiting these presentations at the conference down at the lake, remember even Ladue, which
Right.
built their
Right.
building, they had stairs built in. Remember they were color coded?
They were
Mhm.
color coded, that's right.
Yeah, Maplewood Richmond Heights was the same way, yeah. So, yeah,
It
and that's,
doesn't have to be a one.
that's kind of where I started, but I don't know.
Well,
I'm really leaning
I
to the
think
ninth
option
grade.
1 addresses early childhood. Option 2 addresses early childhood, the need for an auditorium, and the desire to have ninth grade in the high school.
It touches more students.
So, yeah, so.
And there'll be less transitions with that option, the students will be in a building, they all move together, they don't come from all these different places. I
still
mean, it'd
split
be
the-
less stress for the kids.
1 through
I
1 through
have often
3,
thought
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just
Well, it'd be
wonder about
interesting
the.
to see what the internal staff
Right.
says too. And I keep pointing up top here because Christine and Christopher, that I wouldn't want them to go back and say that we've made a decision, even though
Right.
it seems most of it's on scenario 2. And Nancy indicated, even though we only have 40 responses, that's the one.
Well, if we
Well,
end
but
up with 1,000 responses and it reverses the flow of what we're hearing today, it really isn't about what I want.
It's what the
I mean,
community.
It's what the community
Yeah,
wants to support.
what they're gonna
yeah,
support.
What they're
yeah.
gonna
And-
support for kids.
Very well said. And
Yeah.
on next Tuesday, I'll be interested to see what that group, I'd like to keep that group meeting periodically.
Yeah.
Yes.
As just, I've asked them just to be a preschool advisory committee, and they've
Be
were
great.
willing to do that, so.
Branson had also, in regards to their ninth grade center, had visited other places and considered putting them in their own building, doing different things. And so they put a lot of effort and time and planning into what they have now. And it's unique in that they've somewhat isolated the freshmen away from the high school students for their core classes. They have a team system of teachers split the kids into 3 groups, and then those kids can then go into the high school for elective courses. They also have all their high school students with name lanyards and IDs.
Freshmen
And-
were different colors.
That's right.
And they also had a separate cafeteria for the freshmen.
Yeah.
Waynesville built a ninth grade center on their high school as well. But they would be similar to us in that we've got the cafeteria space, we just finished that, and so we wouldn't have them eating somewhere else, but
And
because of the way.
the ninth grade teachers were on teams, like I said, and they had the same planning period where they met, is it once a week, where they could talk about issues amongst individual students. I mean, they'd put a lot of thought into that design. I was impressed with that.
Yeah, the one concern I have is the attachment that the community still has to neighborhood schools. And that, to me, is one of the concerns. We need to, as you say, figure out what the community
We'll
will
hear
support.
that. That may be something we hear.
Yeah.
Maybe something that we don't. I don't know. I'm anxious to see what people think.
Well,
So I think we're moving forward. I mean, I think
Yes.
we're narrowing the choices. We're kind of
Would you,
deciding.
If you would just kind of recap in your mind the timeline. I mean, you said the district's been dancing around this for years, and what we're wanting to do is to get the dance over and take our date home, so to speak. And so,
Take our date home.
how do we get our date home?
I mean, what? Yeah, see, I didn't do that, did I? I was gonna go back to a slide. Talking about timeline
Yeah.
from 97.
But no, I mean from now.
From now.
Where
Now forward.
you're going to groups, you're still working on this survey.
Working back from April of 2015.
Okay.
So that's when,
So at what point in time would you envision that the board needs to,
well, once we gather all this data and we see which option they like, then we have to,
how long is the data
Is that this
gathering?
spring and summer?
well, just a second.
Sorry.
Because we have CSIP to do first. And so later on, we're going to talk about that. But if we decide it's April, then this next fall, we're mobilizing a committee, a campaign committee, and we're doing that survey late fall, winter, or late winter about this option, whether it's 1 or 2, and Ken puts together a shorter, more focused survey about our probability for success in April. But we have to also decide as a board prior to that, what's the date for April that we have to declare January, that we're going to go in April.
So January 15.
Right.
To know.
So we will want to have had the
Year from now.
survey completed by then, digested, come up with final numbers of what we're going to go to the voters with.
And you're really talking about two surveys. The surveys that he's talking about conducting starting now is gathering information about people's opinions about these 2 choices.
Right.
And then the survey by Patron Insight, which is that professional group that would do a survey on once there is one choice, then how much support is there for that one choice? And that one would occur in fall of 14, late fall, winter of 14.
I would lobby for us to make up our minds, and give us time then to educate the community as to what we want to do before we do that survey. We won't know costs associated with maybe operating it, because we don't know what the patrons are gonna support.
Yeah, that's the danger of getting drug in the weeds too deeply,
Yep.
because some of the questions I get asked, and we did it internally, just at our own cabinet meeting, is that you guys were going way into places that I don't know the exact fee yet. I just know that we're gonna do some, it's not gonna be free to everybody.
Mhm.
We've identified a population there that's not being served, that we're gonna try to serve. And we're also trying to take care of some space issues and set this district up for a long time and start early childhood programming. And then it can grow from there. What it is 5 years from now and what it is 10 years from now, hopefully it'll grow. Hopefully after we're all done here that somebody else is taking care of that.
Well, hopefully the state will, at some point in time, recognize the importance of this.
Yeah, and so since '96, we know the importance of it. We finally did it with all-day kindergarten, and now it's the same. And within the next few years, formula funding may
Yep.
give some reimbursement for pre-K like they are with kindergarten ADA. It's the same. You just
Right.
take out the word kindergarten, put pre-K in, and we're kind of at the same crossroads we were back then. So, again, I don't want anybody that may watch this and anybody that may write about this to think that we've landed at one spot, but it's time to get the discussion going on which one of these two do you like and how close to the mark do you think we are, so we can make Ken's work this, prior to spring of 15 as focused as it can
Right.
be. And there isn't really anything on there but taking care of what we've had in our plan for a while.
Very good.
Sounds good.
Good stuff.
Okay, thank you.